Sahana Vavatu, Sahanao Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We're still on verse 2, and we're going to finish this off. And then it says in the verse, Nacha prana samjno na vai panchavayupu. So we're looking at the word prana, and here the word prana stands for aliveness. And so what we tend to mistake is that, right, I am aliveness. But what's really saying is that aliveness is I, but I am not aliveness. And this is very important language because we tend to disassociate in Vedanta. We tend to say, I am not prana, I am not the tree, I'm not the moon, I'm not this. And we kind of go on for years and years speaking like this. But what it's doing in the brain is it's creating a disassociation. And then we become very weird, right? So we become sort of distant from things, distant from people. So the language here is very important. The wording, prana is consciousness, but consciousness is not prana because everything is consciousness. So not only is prana consciousness, the sky is consciousness, the air is breathing is consciousness, right? The body that's speaking now is consciousness. So thus, then it says, what kind of prana? Well, there's exhalation and inhalation. So what it's really saying, even this need to go when we breathe in, and we depend on that breath so much, don't we? We identify with that breath like, I'm alive, right? You're so much, this is me. I need to, right, breathe to be alive. So I need, because I'm prana. So this is the mistake we make. And it's very interesting. Before I go to sleep, you know, I like to look at near-death experiences on, totally fascinating to this. And what I'm really interested is, what about those who are sitting there? What is their experience? So if you go on Reddit, you type in NDE or final moments and then Reddit, and you have people from communities talking about this. And what I'm really interested is how those who have, I mean, first of all, they all say the same thing. Death is not to be afraid of, nothing. It's very, very peaceful. This is one common thread that they all have. It's just the most peaceful, gentle, normal, just kind of like dozing off gently. There's no pain whatsoever. And Lorena, would you confirm this for us?
I wouldn't say there's no pain.
Okay.
I think fear is the biggest thing that causes the pain to be amplified.
Is that psychological?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Because people that believe that it's the end, then the fear arises. So it goes hand in hand. So if you feel like this is it for me as an entity, then that fear just multiplies and becomes painful. Then you focus on the pain more. So I've seen people physically die that have chosen to die.
Yeah. How do you choose to die?
Well, there's not many options really when you've got nurses coming all the time with tablets. But you can choose not to eat. And if you choose not to eat, then you're choosing how you pass.
Wow.
So I've seen a lady that chose not to eat anymore. And she was totally just meditating the whole time. And then she controlled the way she passed away.
Wow. So it's a conscious choice.
She just said, I do not want this anymore. And the final choice is not to eat.
Yeah. Okay.
They'll keep trying to give you tablets and sustain your existence in the body, and they'll try to keep that going. That's their job.
Okay.
Because no one wants to be charged with neglect. So there's a fine line between in palliation of respecting when someone just says, that's it.
Okay. Okay. And would you say they come to a point where they're just accepted completely? There's no point fighting
they can't
it.
Swallow. There's a big process physiologically, as you know.
Right. Yeah.
So
this I know. Yeah.
The organs start to not function properly.
Right.
And they start shrinking and shutting down, and there's acid. I can smell death 3 weeks before it happens.
You can smell?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Really?
So it's a distinct smell, and it doesn't matter what culture you're from, doesn't matter what your diet is.
Yeah.
It's the same smell with every single person.
Wow.
It's a little bit similar to op shops now. You know, op shops,
okay.
charity shops.
I don't know, it's probably upstairs, but it's not what I'm talking about. It's not what
Yeah, you should buy it, make a spray.
medicinal smell. It's kind of sweet, and it's
Aesthetic sweet.
acidic sweet. Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's the whole room, like from
I
very
worked
sensitive
in
to it.
also a similar field, but I
Okay.
Some people can't smell it at all, though.
Yeah.
Some nurses can't smell it at all.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is, see, what they say is, what I like to listen is the messages they get after they return, like their heart, cardiac arrest or something. And they say that one of them said they got this message from some person. It's always some person, someone familiar in your culture or that you're comfortable with. Do the best you can and don't worry about the consequences. Everyone finds their own way. And I really honor this. Like when you get this from the other side, this message, do the best. This is exactly what Krishna says in chapter 3. Do the best you can. Just give it all you have because it's helping you to be the best that you can. Don't worry about the consequences. People will have problems with you one way or the other, right? Something will happen. And don't worry about the rest because this is just the way that life works. There's no other formula to living than just doing the genuine best you can within the confines of Dharma. And so I thought this is so beautiful when a person from the other side returns, who's an atheist, by the way, no communication with the Gita or any of this, atheist, and he says, look, I'm non-religious, and this is what I heard, and I'm touched by this. And then I read another story, and they say, again, it's the most peaceful, comforting, like being wrapped by a warm blanket. Right? I feel totally secure. And I felt angry when I was told that I need to go back because my time is not up yet. Now this is very interesting. This is how this is Western language. My time is not up yet. But what do we call it in Vedanta? My time is not up yet. This is called prarabdha karma. You see? So it's the same, right, concept, but the lingo is different. And I like to compare that because I like to look at both sides. So my time is not up. And every one of them got this. And the moment they said, okay, I've accepted my time is not up, then they said, I went from the state of total peace and comfort and warmth into the most, smelled like every animal that's dead. It just started to percolate my senses and I vomited on the nurse. And that was the most painful part of it. The best part was dying, the returning. And one of them said, what's really hard is staying alive. It's exhausting. And I thought, wow, that's powerful. Staying alive, if you think about it, staying alive is exhausting, right? You got to drink all these things and eat and, and prana has to be amped up always, right? It's very hard. So it makes you appreciate that, number one, it makes you appreciate many things. Number one, this is not all there is. This is a very temporary place where you do have this heavy mass of, meat and bone and prana to deal with. But it's very reassuring knowing when the body stops, it's peaceful. Generally, it's peaceful. This is the common denominator across what they're saying. It's peaceful. It's beautiful. It's the best thing ever, and I look forward to returning back to that place. Right? And I really thought about this, like, wow, this really touched me so at many levels, redefines death. Right? It removes those small, unconscious traces of being afraid to one day drop this body. And so I hope that, you can also get something from this. Yeah. And these are real people, real experiences, different cultures, atheist, religious, and it's a common thread across all of them.
Can the brain hallucinate during that state of?
Yeah, they say, of course, they say the DMT gets released in the last moments. It's a coping mechanism. That's part of it. I don't know how much of that is involved. I'm also looking at cases of those who are 17, sometimes 17 minutes, supposed to be brain dead afterwards, but one of them came back after 20 minutes. Healthy as ever.
An hour and a half.
What?
Instead, you can just look it up on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
I don't know. That's
Yeah.
what I'm just saying. What I saw on
Yeah.
YouTube. Yeah.
Sometimes they say, on the other side, I saw colors I
Yes,
never saw before that even existed. I can't describe them.
Yeah, it's
This
very
is-
colorful and it looks so beautiful.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
you say. It's so beautiful.
Which is so fascinating. Like, our brain can only show us the reality that it's tuned to see. Right? We think this is all there is to it, right? But there's so much more. Imagine a color that you have never seen. Like, what color do I give it? And yet it exists. So nava sapta dhatuhu nava pancha koshaha. So now this pancha kosha, see, kosha means cover. But for Atma, for the self, there is no cover. Because if you cannot cover space, I cannot cover space. And space is consciousness, then what to say of covering consciousness? Right? Because everything is consciousness. So if you, how are you going to cover your awareness? Try covering your awareness. Oh, my awareness got covered. Well, how do you know that? Because I was aware, right? So nothing really covered my awareness. So what happens is, because we do not know these 5 levels of mistakes that we make, we don't know about the physical body, we just take it for granted. We do know it, but we never start an inquiry. We do not know about the prana. We don't talk about this in school. We don't talk about the mind, you know, the capacity to emote, to doubt, or the capacity to decide and then say, this, I am a decider. I am the person who makes decisions. Right? And so thus I become responsible for all of the commissions that are done, which is in a form of, I should have done that, right? Because I've admitted, so I should have done that. Or commissions, I wish I did that instead, right? I should have not done that. So all these commissions and omissions become my problems now, because I am the decider. I am the one who decides, and the decider always has a consequence. So not only am I the decider, and thus I experience the guilt of omissions and commissions, but also the consequences have to come back to me, because I'm the one who decided and caused this thing to happen. So the person lives in a constant state of guilt and shame for having done something in the past. And so they live in the state of, right, pressure that I have to get things right, I have to work things out. But in truth, you're free of the whole show. You know, the whole show is like the movie being projected on the screen, and you are that very screen, which is always ever pure, untainted. And so when we do not talk about these 5 levels of mistakes, they become as good as I. And because that happens, all the complexes that happen in reference to these 5, they become my complexes, which is why a person, I am so loaded with so many complexes. If there's a complex with the physical body, for instance, today, you know what, it depends on what culture you live in. You're in Asia, you don't have to be so tall as a man. You're in America, you better be above 6 foot, right? Otherwise, no woman wants you. That's kind of like that, right? Right? If you're born in Netherlands, you're kind of lucky there, right? They're the tallest people in the world. And so now the mere, just one layer becomes the topic of discussion and becomes a complex that I have. And then you go to, take the manas, right? The emotional. Let's talk about emotions. Let's pour it out. Let's express how we feel. So now the whole thing is about community and feeling good, and which is nothing wrong with that, by the way. But the whole thing becomes just an entanglement in one of these 5. And then you have the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the entire field, with all the respect to education, as that I honor a lot. You know, I honor education a lot. But when education becomes the means to life, it becomes about memorizing, it becomes about storing facts, able to recite facts spontaneously. When it becomes all about being the smart individual who's seen and upheld in society because of his or her caliber, then it becomes a real complex. So now I carry that complex. Not only that, but that very memory starts to degrade. And so then when memory expires by 60 or 70 or 80, you've forgotten a lot that you've learned. Try learning Sanskrit in 1 year, don't do any Sanskrit, and then next year you've forgotten about 80 to 90%, right? So it's a constant effort to try to attempt to hold facts, to attempt to be this perfectly composed person. The irony is, if you do not have a good intellect, a good sense of emotional intelligence, the ability to discern between this is an emotion and this is me, and I'm observing the emotion, now what do I do with this? That's emotional intelligence, to step back and to see what needs to be done with that, right? If I don't have that, then I'm constantly jumping in, right, in these moments of entanglement, and it's very hard to pull oneself out. So on one hand, you need emotional intelligence. You need the ability to empathize with another human being, to empathize with your own pain. But on the other hand, if that becomes the end of life, being this person who's just, empath, then it becomes a mistake that I am committing, right? And thus, now, na vak pani padam, na cha upastha payuhu. So pani padam, in other words, I am not the 5 organs of action, right? The organs of action such as speaking, the capacity to speak, capacity to locomotion, walking, capacity to hold. Now, what's the significance of this? Well, as we get older, as we inevitably do, then we take it right to heart how I'm becoming old and my capacity to speak is degrading, capacity to walk is coming down. So that becomes another complex now that I have to bear. But if you're able to just look at it as just a function, it is endowed to me. But because something is endowed to me, like a phone or a cup or a present that I'm getting, is endowed to me, it doesn't make me necessarily that. A house is yours. Out of many houses, you only have one given house with which you have an intimate relationship with. But it doesn't necessarily mean that house is you. If the house goes in a state of discord, then you got to clean up your house. But if you're so attached to your house, then this little bit of dust here and there, that becomes an emotional entanglement now for me. So yes, the house can be dirty, but not too dirty. Okay, you know what I mean by that. The toilet can be dirty, but not too smelly. Just enough so that I don't get constantly, right, constipated, right, just by thinking about it, right? So therefore, there's a nice balance that we have in life. And this is, the path of the middle way. Not too much, not too little, somewhere in between. And then if you fall down, then you need to lift yourself up. If you get too high, you start to neglect other areas of your life. So then, what needs to be attended so that my life in overall has this natural equanimous state of balance? And this is the work that we have to remind ourselves of. And then, so these are the 4 koshas we spoke about. The Anandamaya means food. The pranamaya, which is the physiological functions. The manomaya, which is the state of doubting and emoting and feeling things, right? What is the intuition, and also memory. And vijnanamaya, which is just your buddhi, the thinking capacity to grasp things, to calculate things, to ascertain things, to make the right conclusions. If my vijnanamaya is not at par, then I cannot make the right conclusions, right? I hear one thing and then I say, oh, great. So now you're saying that none of this doer has any effect on me. So now I can do whatever I want. Look at the contradiction. On one hand, we say that I am not the doer. The doer is me, but I'm not the doer. And whatever the doer does, those consequences do not come back onto myself. Ah, super. Therefore now, let me, aka the doer, go and do things in the world to mess around, because no consequences accrue onto me. So the person fools themselves. They use Vedanta as a means of escape. What we are saying is there's a certain order of reality, which means that there is I, and in the presence of I, there is a mechanism, a person endowed with capacities such as to speak, to emote, to think, to calculate, to conclude, to hold, to grasp, to ascertain, to be empathetic towards another. That instrument is endowed to me for a length of time, but it does not mean that it is me. So let me keep that perspective clear. And what do I have to do while living in this world? Do the best that I can without thinking about too much of the consequences that, otherwise it becomes another complex, another anxiety that I have to bear. I have done this. What if this doesn't work out? Okay, try again. What if you invest so many, like 1 year, and you spend, $5,000 on a project in business, and you are really passionate about it, and you know it is better than anything else on the market. And you put it up, and you realize, and this happened to me multiple times, that it is so above, so good, that people cannot even see the value. What they want is something much lower, something much simpler, something that is not as, quote, technical, and you go, damn, right? It's not pleasant, right? But you're like, I invested so much money and time, and I know it, I've done my research, and I'm just not getting any leads, any sales. People are freeloaders. They want the free option, but they're not doing the paid option. And then you try to change your marketing advertising channel, like on Reddit or AdWords or Facebook. And then you realize Facebook is even worse. They love to click, but Facebook, they don't really buy. And then you go, okay, maybe AdWords works. And then you put some on Google AdWords. And then you say, well, every click is about 90 cents. So I better break even above. Otherwise, if 90 cents and your product, it takes you 10 sales to get 10 clicks to get one sale, and your sale is $10, then you basically spend about $19, right? Or whatever. And you lost $9 or something. So you got to make the right call. And then you realize nothing's working. What do I do now? Try again, something else. What other option do you have?
Surrender, give up.
Yeah. Well, you need the money.
Give up,
You need
but-
the money, right? So you cannot just give up. So when it comes to the workforce, practical matters, then there is no other choice but to simply try again. And you know that this is part of the transactional world. The person, the doer, is doing all they can. Who am I? I am the witness in the presence of whom the doer is making decisions. The prana is doing its thing, energy high, energy low. The body is growing and decaying, and there's a disease. The mind is emoting all day long. That instrument is endowed to me. It doesn't mean that it is I. So this is the balance. It's not whether, oh, I am the non-doer, therefore I sit down and don't do anything. It's true. I'm not a doer. I'm not a decision maker. I'm not the emoter. The emoter is me. The decision maker is me. Everything is me here. The leaf is me. The air is me. The lungs is me. The hand is me. So where will I not find me? See, there's no question of disassociation here. That's why I started out the lesson. If we have this language where I'm pushing, I need to kind of escape and find myself, find the me. Me is the whole thing here. So what is this Nirvana Shatakam? Recognition that wherever there is a form, that's exactly where I am as consciousness. And this we will proceed into more detail. But for now, where is the greatest and the highest addiction of identity in reference to one of these koshas? It is in the Anandamaya. So, how do we start out in life? We all start out with a given body and mind. And this body and mind has desires. It has intentions to make itself happy, doesn't it? Everybody does. So the amount of unfulfilled desires is astronomical because they just keep on going. You expose someone to a park and suddenly they see a pleasant looking person and suddenly they have this new desire. You expose them to a nice beach. Now another desire comes. Expose them to a world of knowledge. And out of that world of knowledge, you will find one or two areas very attractive for you. So now you have a desire for art or poems or philosophy or something. So now the amount of desires that a person develops actually determines their personality. The amount of unfulfilled desires that a person has really equals their personality. For instance, I have an unfulfilled, not Andre, I'm general I have, says a person, I have an unfulfilled desire for flying a helicopter. Right? I just want to fly a helicopter. I want to get that helicopter license. And so what are you going to do as a person? You're going to talk about helicopters. You're going to talk about altitude and speed and aviation laws and getting the license. And you're going to hang around with other people who are into that too. And then you're going to eat food so that you can kind of be more fit for high altitude if it's a different profession. And then you have an unfulfilled desire for singing, for instance. What kind of personality will you do then? Will you have a more kind of a dynamic personality just by the mere virtue of hanging around others who are also into that genre? You will have a certain amount of spontaneity to play the instrument. And they say, wow, you're so spontaneous. Why? Because I have an unfulfilled desire that makes me up, right? So the amount of unfulfilled desires is really what determines your personality right now. When I was younger, my only unfulfilled desire, the biggest one of all, we all had one, was that this Buddha guy, whoever he is, whatever he has, the Saravana Maharishi, whatever he has, I want it. That is my unfulfilled desire. Nothing else. I broke up with girlfriends just because I wanted that unfulfilled desire. And so everything I did, she was like, are you a monk or are you a boyfriend? I'm still deciding, right? So this was a big problem, right? Because the mind wants one desire, but society is saying, no, 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 you should be with a girlfriend. You should be doing this and that. And I said, no, I want that which is the core of my desire, unfulfillment, go.
Couldn't you say that dislikes also defines your personality? So if you've got a real fear of something, that can also define your personality as well.
You mean fear?
Yeah, or any kind of dislike.
Yeah, definitely.
Or, you know, really strong dislike for something, that can define your personality as well.
Yeah, like repulsion.
They're both attachments.
Yeah.
You like and you dislike your
Yeah.
others, and they are both attachments.
Yeah, definitely.
If I like something, I'm attached to it. If I dislike something, I'm attached to it.
Or you could be strangely attracted to something that you dislike, watching horror movies or something,
Yeah.
whereas I'm terrified of watching them, but, you know, some people want to still see it.
Yeah,
even
you're
though,
almost attracted to it because
Yeah.
there's kind of an attraction to it at a deep subconscious level. You are drawn
Yeah.
to that, so that is also an attachment.
like
Mm.
Airplane Investigation, how many times have I watched that? Like years of watching
Or
it.
like your near-death experience, your
Yeah.
attraction to it.
Your attraction to it, yeah, exactly. It's going to define who you are as a person, right?
It says it so in
Yeah.
one of the Upanishads. You are your deep driving, you are your deep driving desire. That's who you are.
You are your deep driving desire.
Sci-fi. So how would you define that? Science fictions, movies and all. I love science fiction movies.
Why?
I don't know, I just love it. I just love any science fiction, especially movies. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but with Airplane Investigation,
I
I'm
love it.
terrified of flying, but I keep watching it
Yeah.
to see what happened to the plane.
Uh-huh.
Like the bolt went crashed or something.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
okay.
yes, where's the bolt? That's
What if a bolt
yeah. So it's
falls
some
out?
Fault, some human fault or some
Yeah.
human error.
Yeah, and that
I keep
determines
watching it.
your personality in some ways. Yeah. Yeah. So the point now is, despite that fear, right? So we have to tie it into the course. See, there is a fear, but now imagine that the recognition of this is firm in your understanding. And how do you think this might help you in cases like that, where there is a fear? Could you imagine yourself being more free, right? To not take it so, right, perhaps like intimate, where it's fine, this is a fear that I have, this is a desire, an unfulfilled desire that I have, but at the end of the day, this is a instrument, right, that is given to me, which is broken for a while, but every instrument gets fixed eventually. So how might this understanding help you genuinely to confront the moment of post-traumatic stress disorder or the moments of death? That yes, the instrument is about to end, that's what is supposed to happen. Thank God, right? I am as I am good, I am fine, nothing will happen to me. So this is the practice. It's not just sharing, the stories are beautiful. At the same time, in what ways do I look at my experience in the light of this understanding? You see? For example, when I'm thinking we all have like fear of speaking, right? Or talking. And it's one of the greatest fears for most people. But when you realize, and this is what Vedanta has done for me, when I realize this is just an instrument called Andre, who's just there to share the knowledge, no more, no less, it's not personal, there's nothing to be afraid of, there's nothing, it's just, you're just offering this instrument to the Lord. This is why we say Om Sahana Bhavatu. Let's give this instrument to the Lord. Lord, use it to the best of your ability. Just because it's not mine, just that thought alone tremendously helps with fear of speaking. You observe that you have these unfulfilled fancies, and the way to fulfill them is to go about using the buddhi to get things, right? However, you also observe something very interesting, is that you need not necessarily fulfill a desire to be fulfilled. Okay? We start out thinking, I need to fulfill a desire to be fulfilled, but you also start to suspect, Not always. I need not fulfill a desire to fulfill myself. I need not be in the presence of a fancy object. Object can be a physical object, a person, an experience, in order to be at peace, at ease with my existence. I need not to do that. And you also start to suspect, well, there's also times where I am completely okay as I am, and I'm not in any particular place that I used to call my happy place. I'm not in my happy place, and yet I am generally content with myself. I am not in a happy space, place or space, at a particular time to be at ease with myself. I thought I needed to be at ease and alone in order to be at ease with myself. And then you realize you're fulfilled when you're not alone. Or you're fulfilled vice versa. In fact, I want you to find me a place or a space, that means a location, that has words or a logo called happiness on it. There's no place called happiness. There's no object called happiness. In fact, if there was an object called happiness, it would be constantly sold out. It's like everyone's just, in work, 2 tabs open, one on the Amazon, inventory out. My tab isn't working, but I'm always keeping an eye on happiness. Moment it comes on, everyone buys it. No. You also notice that you can be in the presence of an object which used to give you fulfillment, and that object now becomes an object of repulsion, right? Or I just don't want it in my presence anymore. So I spend all that time and energy and prana and life pursuing an object because my imagination fantasy was that it's going to bring me the ultimate or give me that version of moksha. That's what you really want. You want that moksha, to relieve that stress of not having it. You want to be free of that. And then you get that and you maintain that, right? You have to be in a maintenance mode now. It's not just a matter of getting it. It starts to rust. It starts to get bored. So you say, how are you doing? Is everything fine? Let's go out. Let's reignite the passion. And that takes some time, right? And then one day you just wake up genuinely and you say, yeah, look, I don't know how to put it to you, but my tastes have changed, right? So the object has now turned and you have no control. We can all relate to this. You want to be a good person. You're trying to be a good, giving, understanding person, and you're trying to even rationalize it to yourself. But how you feel generally inside is you're almost annoyed by yourself. Like, why can I just not be at peace with objects for a long time? Why is there always a period where it just clicks and boom, I don't want it anymore, right? And you notice this, right?
Midlife crisis.
You can relate?
And I was saying it's usually called midlife crisis.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, that's the big one, right?
And it doesn't stop there.
It doesn't stop there. It's more like a continuity of midlives.
All life crisis too.
All life crisis, right? Right. Yeah. So we're going to be real about it. So this is what we tend to, right, finally no longer deny. And this is the truth. And it takes some years to come to this point, but the young ones, when they get this early on, it is a blessing. It's not very pleasant to hear this, but you have a massive advantage later on in reference to your peers, because your peers are still in this idea that one fine day I will find the point of no crises. But you've already figured this out. There will never be a point of no crises. Life itself is really just one big, right, series of mini crises that you got to kind of, overcome. And so when you come to that point, you say, well, then what I'm really seeking is fulfillment. I've also noticed moments where I can be fulfilled without fulfilling a desire this much. And then you start to question, then what is the source of happiness? Is it an object? Is it the mind? Do I need a mind for fulfillment? And you say, not really, because I can have no mind and be fulfilled. Is no mind a place of fulfillment? And you say, not really, because I can be fully engaged in a conversation and be blissed out, right? If it's the right type of conversation. And then some people say to you, no, the New Age circle says, no, you got to look for happiness within. Okay. And then you say, okay, let's go with that thread. I got to look for happiness within. What do you mean by within? Because you can't say in awareness. Awareness is not an object. You cannot say it's in awareness. There's no in or out. So are you talking about the body and the mind? That's the only other option. Well, the body and the mind is made out of the same material that the external world is made of. So now how can you say within? From the standpoint of this atom, conglomeration of atoms, that is external. From the standpoint of those atoms, this is external. So how can you find it within? Show me within is just a standpoint from where you're looking at it from. Not only that, but happiness can also be found externally. So now why do you tell me it's within? It's also without. It's within and without. And then you say, okay, well, just bring this to a conclusion. What is the source of happiness? It's not the mind, it's not no mind, it's not within, it's not without. It's not the fulfillment of desire. It's not the non-fulfillment of desire. It's not in the object. It's not in the non-object. It's not in the seeker, because if the seeker was the fulfillment of desire, then you wouldn't need an object. If the object was the source of fulfillment, then you would keep that object with you all the time. But you don't. You want to get rid of it. So then what is the source of happiness? And I go, oh, interesting question. Where does happiness arise? Because we all relate to the word joy or happiness. And Vedanta says, when happiness arises, what happens is two combinations need to come together. The seeker and the sought. That means you, called the jiva, the seeker, and the sought, which is the object of my desire, of my fancy. So now when the jiva or the seeker comes in contact with the object, with another person, with the money, with the success, with the fame, what happens? Not only does the complainer, the seeker's complaints, the inadequacies reduce, but at the same time that seeker comes in contact with the Anandamaya Kosha. That Anandamaya Kosha is a source of that happiness. So two conditions need to take place. Number one, the seeker has to contact the object. And when there's a contact, there's a union. The seeker's inadequacies in that moment are no more. You're not thinking, oh, I'm so small, I'm a loser, nobody wants me, I have low self-esteem. You're not thinking that. You are completely at one with that experience. Because that wanter, needer, the person, the small person, is put aside temporarily. The self-esteem is gone. There's only me and happiness. There's only me, the seeker, and the Ananda, the Anandamaya Kosha. Now what Vedanta says is even that Anandamaya Kosha, it becomes a Kosha, a cover, when you say, I am that. I am happiness. There are some people, who literally believe their identity is happiness. So they're always cheerful, big smile. Can you relate to someone like that? Right? It's something uncomfortable about that. So cheerful, happy, bubbly. I'm like, dude, just chill out, be real. Right? I know you're actually kind of pretending, right? There's genuine cheerfulness. So end of the day, you have to just be real about all these koshas are ultimately covers, even happiness. And this is the most addictive kosha. So anytime a person has a drug, ayahuasca, DMT, mushrooms, LSD, buffo, what happens in that oneness experience? Because it is a oneness experience. Because I will say it's beautiful, blissful, it's indescribable. Don't even try to describe it because you cannot describe it. That's how beautiful it is. Very simple. That is nothing but the Anandamaya Kosha. You have contacted the fullness of the Anandamaya Kosha, something that we all try to do in small things through the means of fulfilling a desire. So every time you fulfill a desire, you get happy, don't you? Mm-hmm. you get in touch with the Anandamaya Kosha, and what do you want to do again? That's it? No, I want it again. So now I use my buddhi to strategize how to get it again, because it is such a pleasant, addictive experience that now my whole life becomes about seeking happiness, the pursuit of happiness. Vedanta says happiness is healthy, it is beautiful, but that too is a trap. We're not saying now put things down. They're just expressions of this one reality. It's like, wow, I thought this is the ultimate end. Happiness. No. If happiness was you, was intrinsic to who you are, you would be constantly happy. You could never become sad. But you're able to be free of happiness, free of sadness, free of peace, free of love. You're not even love. Otherwise, you'll be loving everyone all the time. There are moments of hate and repulsion, as we just spoke about. Okay? Therefore, no quality, no attribute is stuck onto me. If an attribute was stuck onto me awareness, then that attribute would be with you all the time. But no past attribute from the past is ever stuck to you in the present. No sadness, no joy, no hurt is ever stuck to you all the time. You're able to forget about it. But you cannot forget yourself. Even amnesia, total wipeout of the brain. All memory is gone. I forgot my life, I forgot my name, I forgot everyone. But I cannot forget that I am. That which you cannot forget, even to say, yeah, no, I forgot. Well, no, because there's you. You're still there. You exist, right? In the presence of me, there is a recognition that there is forgetfulness. In the presence of me, there is a recognition that there is a remembrance. Thus, I am neither remembrance nor forgetfulness. Now, knowing it's a kosha, what do we have to do is negate it. So this Anandamaya Kosha has gradations. And these gradations are in reference to the quality of your mind. This is why when the mind is very pure and clean, it's enjoying a state of contentment. This is why the Gita, right, the cheerfulness in the Krishna keeps on restating, is cheerful, playing the flute. There's a war. When is there not a war in life? Right? And he's playing the flute. This is symbolic. Despite being within this world of entanglements, I'm still clear enough and I never lose my perspective. That there is so much more than this world that we're experiencing, and I am in touch with that. And because I'm in touch with that, and I am that, I continue my part to the best of my ability, but I never lose perspective. So, the quality of that mind determines how much you have access to this Anandamaya Kosha. And this Anandamaya Kosha has 3 gradations, right? It gives you 3 general levels of happiness. It gives you priyam. Priyam is something when it's far away. So I call them up and they're coming. So I'm very excited, right? A moment ago I was not excited. I call them up and when are you going to come over? I'm coming tomorrow. That first tomorrow, that's priyam. Right? Level of happiness is there. Tomorrow comes and they call you up and they say, I am 2 kilometers from your house. Heart, boom, 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 right? Priya, moda. Now there's a lot more kind of excitement and willingness to see them. So your happiness has jumped. So now you've gotten more access to the Anandamaya Kosha. They finally come and they hug you. That's the merger. And now it is Priya, moda, pramoda. That's the highest level of happiness that you can, right, have in the waking state. And you go, now this is wonderful. And then, of course, what happens next? When there's that happiness in that moment, what happens right after? A new desire comes. Hey, did you buy me bread? A new desire comes, overshadows the happiness, and all the priya, moda, pramoda is gone. And now they have to go and buy you bread. Are you coming with the bread? Yes, I am. So again, right, pramoda. Right? You're eating the bread, right? That's priyamoda, pramoda again. So this is what we have to undergo constantly. So because it has gradations, what is there that has none. Because to recognize that there is a little bit of joy, priya, more, most, implies there's a presence of something that doesn't go through changes. And that presence is you. If you were as good as the gradation of happiness, then when a little bit of happiness goes, your awareness will go. When happiness comes, suddenly you come. You don't. You remain, the witness survives the coming and going of Anandamaya Kosha, which shows you you cannot be stuck to happiness. You are not happiness. Happiness is you because everything is you, but you are not happiness. Okay? Yeah, and then it shines at the time of experiencing the punyam. So this is very interesting. When we go through an event that is meaningful for you and you attain what is important for you, what happens to your eye in that moment? Is it inflated now? Is it bigger than it was? Yes, it is, right? Before it was like this. Now I gained the experience and now my eye is like this, isn't it? This is when we gain an experience that we want. So it says here, you naturally revel effortlessly. The ahamkara naturally revels in this three gradations. When you attain something, you just relax and your eye is just like, right? I'm one with this happiness. It's just naturally reveling in this happiness. And you're like, this is so good. I want to now have this again. This feels so right because it's so close to Atmananda, to who you really are, that you mistake this natural reveling of joy with Chidananda. And so you say, this I want again. No, because when it goes away, I am there to witness that going away. Thus, I cannot be the happiness either. Okay? You see, now you can share the story with me, but I'm always going to remind you, what is this entire course about? It is the recognition that the mind does what the mind is supposed to do, go to places.
Okay.
It's supposed to come back. It's supposed to enter deeper levels of reality, right? But in the presence of consciousness, this all occurs. This all happens non-stop. It happens, it doesn't happen. Sometimes it happens too much, sometimes you want it more, sometimes less, okay? But there's always this presence, in the presence of whom this is going on. That presence is your real nature, okay? So we have to now start to look at this in a different light because all our lives were conditioned. You know, let me just optimize the mind. My mind's going through this amazing awareness, you know, thing of depth, and I want to attain something of no mind. Even no mind is just the Vijnanamaya Kosha. You understand? So what is the vision of a wise person? Someone who has total clarity of this vision. Let the mind do what it does. Let it do and go to places. It doesn't bother me because that's just the mind. It's just a given instrument for a short amount of time and it will never stop doing that. So that means if you and I lived 10,000 years, how many stories will we tell each other? 10,000 years worth of stories. If we lived for 10 trillion years, we would have 10 trillion years worth of stories. Until someone says, hey, stop. You are just talking about matter, called the mind, 5 elements, molding and shaping constantly from one form to another. Hey, let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about this. Now let me tell you about this. Remember last month? It's like Play-Doh, the mind. That's all you're doing. You're just telling me about the shape of your mind or no mind. What the teacher in Vedanta says, honor your mind. It's a beautiful instrument, and that very instrument is the only thing you have to figure out the reality. So there's no question of no mind. Okay, because what I can be. There was a nice story of a how do you call them? A Zen master who was a meditator, and he used to attain lots of spontaneous nirvikalpa samadhis. Right, the best place you can go to. And then a student came to him. In fact, he called a student and said, "Give me a glass of water." They didn't have glass, so they had to get a bucket from the river. So the student went to the river and came back, and his Zen master was in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So, all right, what do I do now? And it was one of his deepest samadhis ever. So 1,000 years went by, and somehow the guy awoke, right? And he's just skull and bones everywhere. It's like, oh, where's my water? Oh, what's he doing on the floor, right? And he's like, okay, someone comes over to him and says, what happened? I was in samadhi. And what are you doing here? Oh, I'm teaching students to find out who they are. Who are they? Oh, they're just no mind, right? Oh, and are you happy with that? Well, no, I need to enter another Nirvikalpa Samadhi to go there. So in other words, the Zen master just postponed the search for 1,000 years. And he gave himself an illusion that he got enlightened. Until he came out, and now he has another unfulfilled desire to enter again. Now, even if you live 1,000 years, what is that in a small speck of time? What is that? The universe is billions of years old. And I want to attain Nirvikalpa Samadhi, a state of so-called enlightenment, for 1,000 years. It's nothing. It's an insult to your timeless nature. So Vedanta is not about entering states. States are just modifications of the mind. It is about the recognition that in the presence of states, I never get affected by them. I remain I without being touched. No matter how deep the mind goes, I remain untouched by that. And that is the greatest freedom that you can have. Because the mind will never give you a break, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to keep on going. So the freedom is really the recognition that I bless this mind. In fact, the mind is always blessed by the laws of nature. And I use this mind to the best of my abilities, but I understand it's not mine. It was never mine to begin with, and I have no right to stake something that's mine that is not mine.
But then what is samadhi?
Yeah, that's called a thief.
What is samadhi?
Samadhi is a state, see, savikalpa, nirvikalpa. Now,
But how do you get there?
well, first of all, you have to calm down your mind a lot, right? Focus.
There must be a practice. So this is the practice. of
Ashtanga,
yoga, you're saying,
Ashtanga, yeah, Ashtanga yoga.
Hopefully it helps to focus. So being able to think less erratic thoughts helps you focus better on something, whatever object you choose. So if you want to learn Vedanta and you've got the ability to focus, then you'll get a lot more out of it. Your understanding will be clearer. So that's what I think the benefit of all the transcendental meditation and all that sort of thing.
Meditation is a place, two parts, closed eyes and open eyes. Open eye meditation, we call it nididhyasanam, open eye contemplation. So you take this knowledge that we're discussing now, and while you're driving on the car, in the car, you're thinking, okay, so everyone's mind right now in these cars is illumined by the same light. That light I am, right? And they take that light for granted because it's so common. It's just all the time there for everyone.
Yeah.
And they think, no, this, never mind, the light, I want an experience, right? So now they again, complexes. So this is your open eye meditation. Closed eye meditation is finding a spot, private place, where you will close your eyes, you will take one teaching from the class, some lesson that really struck you hard. That lesson you keep bringing in your mind and contemplating, what's the relevance of this for me? And just mewing on it, chewing on it, munching it, so it becomes your own. That's closed eye meditation number one. Closed eye meditation number two is japa. A japa is a repetition of the mantra, like Om Ishaya Namaha, Om Ishaya Namaha, Om Ishaya Namaha, Om Ishaya Namaha. Now, every time you say Om Ishaya Namaha, you're really thinking about the term. What does Om refer to? The three states, waking, dream, and deep sleep. The Isha is the Lord, right? What is the definition of the Lord? We haven't spoken about the Lord yet. And Namaha, my prostrations to that Lord, from whom arises these three states. And I'm just one of the characters in these three states, called Andre. So closed eye meditation has a unique ability to extract so much more nuances than open eye when the brain is infused with so much activity from the visuals. So when you close your eyes, you're a lot more nuanced in your thinking. And this is done, for example, every night before sleep, every morning. One teaching, either japa or some excerpt, right, from the class, and this is brought into your mind. Think about it. You can do also some pranayama. And the best way to communicate the benefits of meditation is if you actually do it. When there is a meditation, it makes the mind extremely sattvic. And that sattvic mode carries over to the rest of your day. And that has, massive benefits for you. It's kind of like a drug, almost. Like when you take a certain drug, and it just makes your mind a lot more sensitive to realities. Ordinary, common sense people who meditate, they experience calmness, ability to handle stress a lot more, quicker recovery, ability to empathize easier, and just smoother in their approach. So you polish out the edges through meditation. Yeah. How do you start? Very simple. You make a simple plan and say, okay, so before sleep or after waking up, first thing, or not even then, during middle of the day, whenever I have time, close my eyes, focus on the breath, and start. Om Ishaya Namaha, Om Ishaya Namaha, Om Ishaya Namaha, Trut, Om Ishaya Namaha, Trut, Om Ishaya Namaha, Om Ishaya Namaha. Like that for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, that's it. Is there a perfect way to meditate? No, it is your way. Close eyes, japa, go. Anandamaya Kosha, it is fully manifest in the deep sleep. That's why we have so much happiness there. That's why everyone loves to go to deep sleep. And do you like being woken up from deep sleep? That's the worst thing to happen, right? In other words, we have to remember, Anandamaya Kosha is not Brahmananda Kosha or Atmananda Kosha. It is not Chidananda. When we say Chidananda Shivoham, we're not talking about who you are. We're talking about a small speck of who you are. So Anandamaya Kosha is not who you are. That thing that you experience in deep sleep, that is not the fullness of who you are. That is like a little dot. But everyone loves deep sleep. It's one of the best experiences there is. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the same thing. One of the greatest orgasmic experiences you can have, Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And Nirvikalpa Samadhi, what is that? It is a speck, a little dot, insignificant dot of your vastness. So don't think, if you've had an experience through some drug-induced experience, and you say, that oneness that I had, which was indescribable, it was like all the joys of earth in the past, present, and future, of all animals, all species, put into one single grain of sand. And that grain of sand is put on an entire beach of all anandas ever. And you times that entire beach of joy times by infinity, even that doesn't do even justice to your true nature. So don't let your mind imagine how you've experienced this oneness and think, oh, that's the final thing there is. It is just a taster. So in deep sleep, you get the fullness of that reflected happiness. That's called Ananda. That Anandamaya Kosha. Reflected happiness. However, in waking, what happens? Or in dream, that Ananda, that reflected Ananda, is being conditioned by the mind. Right? Because the mind vrittis are always pouring new desires, more unfulfilled fancies, and every time they do, they cover that Anandamaya Kosha, and you go, I'm not happy. So every time you say I'm happy, all that happened was that vritti temporarily merged, it gotten what it wanted, right? The object of desire, and now that vritti just allows that Ananda to shine. And that Ananda, you go, oh, I'm happy. Life is so good. That is just a fraction of of this Anandamaya Kosha. So let's get very clear here. During deep sleep, the fullness of Anandamaya Kosha is being experienced. During waking and dream, only a fraction of Anandamaya Kosha is being experienced. But either way, during deep sleep or waking and dream, that Anandamaya Kosha does not equal Brahmananda. That's the important part. And thus, therefore, let's not associate, only appreciate. It's a little taster of who I am. Thank you, a little lick, like a lollipop. Suppose you had this oneness experience, and you said, I experienced oneness. Can you hear the contradiction? I experienced oneness. In other words, what I've done was I isolated, within an isolated time, there was oneness. Outside the isolated time, it's no longer oneness. Wrong. Oneness means it has to be true right now. It's true in this cup. It's true in the sound. It's true in the smell. It's true in your thought. When I say true, it's available, it's present, it's pervading. It's making that up. It's making up your thought. It's making up this cup. It's making up no mind. It's making up the most boring experience. It's making up the most exciting experience. It never wavers. It never diminishes. It's equally there, and it is equally available to all beings, including insects and trees and stones and human beings and all things in the past, present, and future. That's oneness. It is true all the time, even now. So for me to say, hold on. What? Om Ishaya Namaha. Oneness. Now I come out, I close the door. Let me tell you about my oneness experience. Okay, over there is oneness. This is all just two-ness, this is all just down there. Error. Remember, oneness means it is true right now. What is the only principle that is true in this moment? We said a lot of things so far. We were here an hour ago. A lot of words were communicated. Who was listening to that? I am. Right. I was listening to that. Right? Because of my mind, which is able to receive the data from the world, and I'm pervading that mind, and being pervading that mind, sounds take place in the presence of me. Visuals take place in the presence of me, because I'm pervading the very eyes, which is sending data into the brain, and I'm pervading that brain, and because I am in that very brain, which is seeing this world, there is an experience from this standpoint. There is an experience from that standpoint. There's an experience from that standpoint. Why? Because I am pervading this brain, pervading this brain, pervading all brains. The experience changes because the instrument is different. The standpoint is different. If someone's standing in that side of the room, they're listening to the same sounds minus this room. Because their eyes are not seeing this. But if there's one thing that's true over there, true over here, true in the past for somebody else who doesn't even understand Vedanta, it is that I am. There is a constant, unwavering, invariable presence in the presence of whom these changes are coming and going. Happiness is coming and going. Sensations of the body is coming and going. The presence of a new body is coming and going. The disappearance of this body one fine day is coming and going. In fact, we're all experts at this body disappearing. Your body has already died many, many times. Even the heart that you believe is necessary to beat, even that heart is completely different from the heart of 20 years ago. No connection. So technically, you already have experienced death, so-called death. And therefore, the Anandamaya Kosha cannot be the self. Right, it changes, so there's an unchanging presence, right? Good. 2. Priyamoda Pramoda. It's made of parts. Anything that is made of parts or depends on something else for it to arise is temporary. Okay? Because Anandamaya Kosha depends on the desirability of an object for that Priyamoda Pramoda to come. The moment that object gets old, your Pramoda is going right along with it. So anything that depends on something else, that I am not. It is me, but I am not that. So it changes, it is made of parts, and can someone think of a third reason?
It has qualities, so it has different variations.
Good. And
Which we label.
And are any of those qualities stuck onto me right now? No. Because if they were, I would be experiencing them all the time. You see, you've already had 40 years to experience qualities. Where is that quality now? Well, what quality? Exactly. That means nothing is stuck onto you. The 5 koshas are negated thereby by logical inquiry. Okay. So far, what we have done is called neti neti. Na iti, na iti, na iti, 5 times like this. Na iti, not this to the body, not this to the prana, not this to the manas, not this to the thinking capacity, not this to the joys, not this. Now this negation, does this negation involve physically distancing yourself from any of these koshas? No. What does it involve? Recognition. Simple recognition in the form of knowledge. This is where I keep putting my identity into, and now that I've heard about it, that's all you need to do. Just hear the knowledge and the mind starts to chew on this in the background. And if you come to a point where you hear this, you have incredible amount of punyam already. Tons of punyam in your life to come to the teaching, just to hear neti neti. However, neti neti is not enough, okay? Because then you're going to say, well then what's left? If I've discarded, not that I've discarded, I've just through recognition said, this is not, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. Through knowledge, not through mental denial, then what's left? Then who am I? Okay, so we are not now trying to imagine the self, that observer, at somewhere deep down. So now that I've negated, I have to look. Now where are you going to look? Suppose you start to look for the self. Where are you going to be looking? In one of these 5 koshas. What do we say about the 5 koshas? Wherever there is a kosha, that's exactly where I am. The finger is me. The brain is me. The thought is me. So it's a matter of recognition. Find me one thought that is not pervaded by awareness. That awareness, just the fact that you recognize a thought shows you I am there. Who is there in a thought? I am there. Whatever that I is called, call it Atma, Brahman, Self, Parameshwaraha. That is you. Do you need to prove it? Do you need to prove that you're aware? No. Does the I need to prove that it exists when it's constantly seeing objects? Oh, look, says the I, the physical I. You know, I don't believe I exist, and yet it's constantly looking at objects. You understand? Just the fact that objects are seen shows you there's a presence of the I. The nose wants to prove itself, and it's inside the most, amazing field of flowers. I'm looking for myself. Where's the nose? I'm looking for myself. A, you recognize yourself by the mere fact of perceiving the smell. The very fact of perceiving the mind, of perceiving the smell, of perceiving sight, of perceiving experience shows me I am there. There has to be a subject for an object to be observed. Subject, object.
So it's the neti, and then there's taktomasi, which is I am that.
I am that very awareness.
At the same,
Yes, wherever there's a thought, I am there.
I am there.
Wherever there's a finger or a body, I am there.
Yeah.
Thoughts.
Sure. Attention is a function of the mind to focus in on one particular
Okay.
thought. Okay, that's the mind does attention. Awareness is who you are. So I am there as awareness. In the presence of me, the mind is being attentive or non-attentive. The mind is thinking or not thinking.
I'm there from the gross to the subtle to the subtlest,
Right.
everywhere.
Yeah.
That's if you think that way,
Right.
I think that's the best. That's what I think. Like I'm from the gross, the body to the subtle, to the subtlest, the intellect. I'm there. I'm penetrating all the 5 sheets.
Yeah. It's like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, now hold that thought. Use the word dependent, a very important word that I will cover. For now, look at it like this, so we don't just let this fly off. Paul is one wave in the entire ocean. Andre is another wave in the entire ocean. Rani, right, another. Lorena, right, Dave. All waves. So now wave goes, Andre wave goes to Paul wave. Hello, hello Paul wave. And Paul wave responds back. And we're like, wow, what an amazing world, right? How's life amongst these waves? And Paul responds, wow, you know, there are some trouble waves, some good waves, you know, I'm trying to kind of make my, you know, stay away from some troubling waves, you know, associate myself with good waves. And I'm like, and I say exactly the same thing. I say, yeah, you know, life is like that. You know, we got to find our way in this vast ocean of waviness, right? It's all wavy. And sometimes there are pretty waves, right? With some nice eyelashes, right? And some skirt, you know, made out of waves. And you're like, you know, this is a wave to go for, right? So now you go and plan, you know, you plan a whole courting process, which itself is made out of, right? It's just another wave. And so the whole world is just, you know, talking about waves in different names. And one wave looks like a car. And you go, I bought a car. Oh yeah, what car did you buy? Oh, I bought a car, you know, an X6, X7, if they're even, I bought a Tesla. Like, wow, Tesla's amazing. What kind of batteries? Well, it takes wave in the form of batteries. I have to go buy those wave batteries, right? And I have to go work for wave called money. And so I come home and now we plan a holiday where it's just amazing waves, right, on some part of the ocean. So now we go on a wavy airplane, right, and then a wave airplane lands on wavy airports. And wavy airports, right, comes out wavy people. Some are, you know, smiling, some are kind of, you know, apprehensive. And then we go to a wavy hotel. And then, you know, wavy bed, lying down. And it's just all just, you know, just the whole thing is just awesome. It's a holiday made out of the most amazing waves you've ever seen. But all of them, from the beginning to the end, the whole story that I just said to you, there was no point where any one of those waves was away from their source. They were always ever the water. So there's no way that you can ever find yourself anywhere in this world or look at any part of your body or any thought that is away from what it already is. That which makes it up is consciousness. Now you're going to say, well, this is kind of hard to understand because consciousness is not something I can easily relate to. Like I can easily relate to a cup, right? It's hard because my 5 senses sees it. But how do you kind of lead me to the final vision of a wise person? I need you to take me step by step so I can go with you and quote, arrive there. Not that you can arrive to the water because the whole thing is water. Yeah. It's kind of ironic. The whole thing is water and yet I need you to help me to arrive to the water, which is the only thing that is. So the teacher says, wait, that's coming. For now, just one more verse about the self. So now we have gone through neti, and the question then is, who are you? And the answer is the self. And now, what is the self? It is swayam jyotihi. Who are you? You are that which is like light, sometimes we say. It is self-effulgent. It is always the illumining principle of all of your thoughts. There is something about your experience that is this always lighting up the thoughts. Every thought seems to just be like lit up, like it's seen, it's perceived. Every emotion is just seen, perceived. Now, what is that which sees and perceives it? That is swayam jyotihi. Swayam jyotihi, which is self-illumining presence that doesn't need anyone else to illuminate for you. You are that which is self-shining of your own. I don't need to tell you that you're aware, but I need to tell you that the earth from the moon is about 297,365 kilometers. I need to tell you that. And you go, oh, interesting. I don't need to tell you that you are when you're a baby. But when you're a baby, you need to be told what is 1 plus 1. You need to be told the basics of the basics. But I don't need to tell you what is evident to you all the time, that I am. That I am a conscious, self-existing, self-illuminating being. And there's nothing that I can do about it. I cannot turn off my awareness. I can't turn off my attention. That's called doing this. Just move your head. But whether my mind's focusing here or focusing here, there's an awareful presence in whom there's an attention that's coming and going. Self-effulgent. We sometimes call it the unproved prover. You cannot prove it, and yet it's self-proving. You cannot prove awareness because awareness is not an object. Like I can prove to you, hey, did you know I have a cup behind me? Oh, show me. Okay, cool, here. I'm going to prove to you a cup. Why? Because it's physical. But I can't prove to you awareness. I can't show you awareness. You understand this? Because awareness is not an object. It's not an experience. It's not something that I can have at some time and then I can like write a page or a mantra and I say, if you say this mantra, you will now come in touch with awareness. I can't do that.
Are we talking about it?
We're talking about it, and while we're talking about it, there is a present being in whom we're talking about it. That present being is awareness. But the moment you talk about it, oh, I'm still aware of that too, right? So on one hand, I cannot prove to him, I cannot prove to you that awareness is an object, but on the other hand, you cannot deny it. You cannot deny it because you are. You are. You simply are. And even when you're not, you say, my mind was turned off. There was no mind. Well, who was still there? I was there. I slept peacefully. My life was not there. Andre person is not there. My troubles were not there. My business was not there. Students were not there. The house was not there. Fears were not there. Desires were not there. But I was. And how do I know that? Because I can hardly wait to go to sleep. It means I will be there. If I won't be there, I wouldn't want to go to sleep. So I cannot prove to you that I'm there in deep sleep, but I can prove to you that I'll be there in deep sleep. You see that paradox? How? Simple. I don't want to be woken up from deep sleep. That means I must have already been there, and I'm not afraid to go to deep sleep. Why? Because I know that I will be free of all problems, which means there has to be an experiencer in deep sleep to recognize that there will be absence of pain. That's why I look forward to deep sleep. Okay. We also call the self the irreducible knower. What is irreducible knower? Irreducible knower means, can you reduce, for instance, if I say to you, once upon a time, there was a knower, and that knower was you. And that knower is gone. Are you gone? Well, the knower's gone.
What wasn't you then?
You're not gone. Irreducible knower. There was never a time, never will there be a time when you can reduce yourself to nothingness. There will never be a time when you will say, I no longer am. Because if you say that, then who is there to know that I no longer am?
Yeah.
That means I was there.
Yeah.
Okay?
It cannot be negated.
You cannot, non-negatable awareness.
Non-negated.
Non-negatable. It's the only non-negatable principle that is. Everything else the relative knower, the waker, where's that so-called waker that disappeared? Where is he or she in dream? Oh, look, I am a knower. I am a waker and I'm a knower. And I am, I am a male, right? I'm a male and I am in this house. And this is what I know about my life to be about. I am in this house and I'm a healthy male. In the dream, which I had one, just yesterday, who was I this time? I was just some weird person who had no connection to this person, Andre. Just like some weirdo, right? Amazing. The house is gone. All the things that this waker knows is gone. All the problems that this waker has is gone. Another dreamer who was born, and that dreamer had a whole host of issues that this waker has none. I was like, oh my God, I want to get out of this dream. It was just one problem after that. You know, one of those, you're caught in a loop, you solve the problem, another problem comes. That was a dream, right? And that dreamer, knower, gone. Resolved into the deep sleeper. Deep sleeper arose once again, a waker. And this is the waker now. The body of a waker who says, this is who I am. I am this waker. Only who lasts for how many hours? 15 hours, 14-hour waker. And I say, that's who I am. It's really funny. If the dream lasted longer than the waking state, we would have had a reverse experience. We would say that the dream is more real than the waking. This is how our brain fools us. We're totally fooled by, as I said, color. You don't even see all colors right now. And we say, no, this color is us. I love color. I love color. I love sounds. But there's so many sounds that we haven't heard. It's unimaginable. And so the waker is limited to a certain range of capacities. The dog can hear a lot more than we can.
Sonar as well. Like
Sonar, yeah.
So certain animals have the sonar capacity, which is totally unknown to us.
So that means their world, just on the capacities they're given, is so different than ours. Just on the capacities they're assigned. And so we're assigned a small range of capacities, and this is what we take to be absolutely real. So we need to start questioning, and by doing so, you come to see that nothing is really as it seems. Somebody asked, why is it that in this waking, we have a world that doesn't fly away like that, but in the dream, the world flies away? And the answer is very simple, because this world is a collectively shared world. It is governed, it's created by God, Ishvara. Shiva in this term, Shivoham, Shivoham. Here the word Shiva is Ishvara. Whereas in the dream, that world is your own created world. And whatever you create doesn't last as long as Ishvara's world. Yeah. And also, that's the only way that we can communicate and get our stuff done in this world. That means I need a stable ground to walk on, to walk over to you, to shake your hand and have a discussion. If I create my own world, your mind cannot hold things very long. That's how the nature of the mind is. It cannot hold anything for more than a second. So now to spend my whole life trying to make this mind into this permanent state of like no thought, you are going to spend your lifetimes in that. The mind is not meant to remain in a permanent state of anything. It's meant to change. Because the mind, as we said, is Play-Doh. It changes, the environment makes it change just by the virtue of looking elsewhere. The moment you put this body in an environment of a dance club, it's going to change the mind. Okay? So let your mind change and adore that, because it's doing its job. The Vedanta is not about trying to make your mind control your mind. There is a level of management of your thoughts, for sure. But at the same time, you have to be very clear. This is an instrument given to me. Thank you, Lord. It's an amazing instrument. Let's take care of it. Now, let's use it to figure things out. And the best thing you can use it for figuring things out is its own truth. The mind needs to figure out its own truth. Just like this table is the mind. This table for the longest time has thought I am this much. A table with 4 legs. I wish I had 5 legs to be more stable, right? So now the guru, table or chair, comes and says, Mr. Table, you need to look at the truth. What makes you up? What pervades you? Where is their place? What is that place where it is not? And then the table comes to see, well, there's no place where it is not. There's no place where I cannot find the wood. If I try to meditate on the wood, it is a self-defeating process. Because the very meditator is the wood. The goal to be attained is the wood. The time it takes is already, I'm already that, so I don't have to wait for the wood to arrive tomorrow. I'm already that right now. So what I have to do is I have to own up to that which is my own truth. The mind needs to say, what makes up these thoughts? The thought is like a table, remember? What makes up the thought, aka table? What makes it up is that which is in every single thought. The thought changes from table to chair to plate to statue, but they're all made of the same substance. That same substance is directly known to you as I am, which is self-effulgent. It shines of its own nature. It never leaves. It's always present as awareness, in the presence of whom there's a thought shaping and shifting. A table, suppose it's a more flexible table right now, a table is shaping and shifting, but is there any one moment when this table, suppose, becomes the ugliest wooden statue you've ever seen in your entire life? Does that now mean it's displaced the wood? No. Now the next moment, that table becomes the most amazing, gorgeous piece of art you've ever seen. Does that displace the wood? Does that make the wood suddenly better? So your repulsion and attraction is always in reference to what? The name and form, never to the substance. And what are we conditioned to do? We are conditioned to always look at a form and judge it. I don't like it. I like this. But if you step back and recognize there is not one place in this world that is not already that one reality right now, which is known to you as I am, then your relationship starts to change dramatically. You can still be with people, you can still be in challenges and all forms of life challenges, but you understand we all share one unity here. It is all expressions of one reality. And none of us are outside that reality right now. None. There will never be a time, because the whole thing is that reality. So living like this, you still adore living this transactional world, but your relationship to the transactional world changes. The conclusion changes from table, oh, I am just a table with 4 legs, I wish I had 5, into, yes, I am given this table because of my karma in this life. I am a woman, I am a man, I am so and so with all these talents. That's my karma. But wherever there is a table, that's exactly where I am, the wood. So don't think that there is some reality out there to find or discover in this kosha. Oh, let me deeply down search for myself. You are everywhere. Everything is you already. This is what the mind has to own up to. And when it owns up to that, that's what's called moksha. And then it just continues living like normally. Even the death is just changes of that one reality in different forms. Like the death of this table, we call it cutting the legs. Now you don't call it a table anymore, you just call it a wood or plywood or whatever. Nothing, the wood is not gone. You were the wood while the table was alive. You're the wood before the table came to be, and you're still the wood after the table has gone. In that same way, there was never a moment when you, as the awareful one, the presence from whom the entire universe arises, there was never a moment when you were not. And even now, it is only you manifesting as Andre, manifesting as Jivita, manifesting as a cup, manifesting as a table, manifesting as the sound. And when one fine day, one of the expressions dies, one of your expressions dies, called Andre, called Jivita, called Paul, I still am. That means I am before the body is born, during the body's presence, and after the body is gone. Now, again, this needs to be solidified because I've not given you a formula to, as I said before, arrive step by step to the final reality. So it's not just all talk, right? So this will be done next month. For now, we will close and then I will give you the questions. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.